The mining station orbited a distant moon where few humans ever ventured, and the work was hard and lonely, but someone had to extract the rare minerals that powered half the galaxy. Jake worked the night shift in Section 7, where the corridors were dimly lit, and the hum of machinery filled every silence, and he preferred it that way because fewer people meant fewer questions about why he kept to himself. He was checking the pressure gauges near the airlock when he heard footsteps behind him, light and quick, and when he turned, he saw her. She called herself Amy, and she had arrived on the station 3 weeks ago, claiming to be a new technician transferred from the inner colonies, and everyone believed her because her paperwork was perfect, and she kept her head down and did her job without complaint. Jake had noticed things the way her eyes caught the light sometimes, reflecting it back like a cat's gaze in the darkness, and the way she never ate in the cafeteria, always taking her meals alone in her quarters, and the way her skin seemed just slightly too smooth to perfect, as if it had never seen a single blemish or scar. Had kept these observations to himself because it was not his business, and he had his own secrets to protect. But tonight she stood in front of him, blocking his path, and her expression was different from the careful mask she usually wore. You going to tell them? She asked, and her voice was steady, but he could hear the tension underneath. Then what he replied, though he knew exactly what she meant, that I am not human, she said, and for a moment the air between them seemed to freeze. Jake glanced down the corridor to make sure they were alone, and then he looked back at her, really looked at her, and now that she had admitted it, he could see all the small differences he had tried to ignore: the way she stood still when most people would shift their weight, and the way her breathing was too controlled, too measured, and the faint shimmer around her fingertips that could have been mistaken for a trick of the light but was not. "What are you?" he asked, keeping his voice low. She hesitated, and then she reached up and touched the skin behind her ear, and suddenly the illusion flickered. For just a second he saw what she really was. Her skin shifted to a pale blue-gray color marked with delicate patterns that looked like frost on a window, and her eyes were larger and entirely silver without any visible pupil, and her hair, which had appeared brown and ordinary, now shimmered with an iridescent quality like oil on water. Then she touched her ear again, and the human disguise snapped back into place. "A.M.K. Laurie," she said, and the name sounded musical and strange on her lips. "And my people have been watching humanity for decades, studying you, learning from you, and I was sent here to observe this station and report back to my world." Jake processed this information with surprising calm, perhaps because he had suspected something like this for weeks, or perhaps because in the vastness of space, the impossible seemed more possible than it did back on Earth. "Why tell me?" he asked. "Because you already know," she said, "and because I need your help." She explained that her disguise technology was failing, that the device she used to appear human was damaged, and she could not repair it without parts that were not available on the station, and if anyone discovered what she was, there would be panic and fear, and her mission would be over. And worse, her people might interpret her exposure as an act of aggression by humanity. "Galaxy is more fragile than you know," she said, "and there are treaties that hang by threads, and if I am discovered here, it could break those threads." Jake understood the weight of what she was telling him, and he also understood that he had a choice to make. He could report her and be seen as a hero for exposing an alien infiltrator, or he could help her and risk everything he had built on this station. "What do you need from me?" he asked. "Time," she said, in silence, and she looked at him with those two perfect eyes, and added something else. "I need a reason for people to stop asking questions about me, and I need someone who can cover for my absences when I need to drop the disguise to rest, because maintaining it constantly is exhausting. And how do I do that?" She took a breath, and when she spoke again, there was something almost vulnerable in her voice. "People have been asking why I keep to myself, why I never socialize, why I am always alone. And if you and I were seen together, if they thought we were involved, they would stop asking those questions, and they would give me space and give us both privacy." Jake realized what she was suggesting, and he felt heat rise to his face. "You want people to think we are together?" "Yes," she said, and I know it is much to ask, but I have nowhere else to turn, and you are the only one who has noticed what I am, which means you are either very observant or you understand what it is like to hide. He did understand, and maybe that was why he found himself nodding. Right, he said. And I will help you, but you have to tell me the truth about everything, no more secrets between yous. She agreed, and they shook hands. And her grip was stronger than it should have been for someone her size. Over the following days, they began their performance. Jake started eating meals with Amy in the cafeteria where others could see them, and he walked with her through the corridors. And he made excuses when people asked why she was not at social gatherings, saying she was tired or not feeling well, and people accepted this because everyone knew. Relationships made people want privacy. At night she would come to his quarters, where she could drop her disguise and rest, the first time she appeared in his doorway in her true form. He had to remind himself to breathe. She was beautiful in a way that was entirely alien her. Blue-gray skin marked with patterns that seemed to shift and flow, and her silver eyes luminous in the dim light, and when she moved it was with a grace that no human could match. Thank you, she said, as she settled onto the chair in his small living space, and she closed her eyes and let out a long breath as if she had been holding it for hours. How long have you been here like this, he asked. 3 weeks, she said, and every moment of every day. I have had to maintain the illusion, and it drains me in ways I cannot explain. He made her tea even though he was not sure if she could drink it, and she accepted it with a small smile and sipped it carefully. It's sweet, she said, and nothing like the beverages on my world, but I like it. They talked late into the night, and she told him about her people, the Kailari, who lived on a world of ice and silver cities where the sky was filled with 3 moons, and the nights lasted for weeks at a time. She told him about the technology they had developed, and the way they could bend light to create illusions, and the careful balance they maintained with other species in the galaxy. And she told him about the loneliness of her mission, the isolation of pretending to be something she was not, and the fear that she would fly. Did not expect to feel this way, she admitted, and I did not expect to meet someone who would understand. Jake found himself telling her things he had never told anyone about the reasons he had come to this distant station, to escape a past he did not want to remember, and to find a place where he could be anonymous. We are both hiding, he said, and maybe that is why this works. The weeks passed. Their arrangement became more real. She would come to his quarters every night, and they would talk for hours, and sometimes she would fall asleep in his chair, her true form visible and vulnerable, and he would cover her with a blanket and let her rest. During the day they played their roles, and people stopped asking questions because they assumed they knew the truth, that Jake and Amy were involved and wanted privacy. But there were complications. One of the station supervisors, a man named Greg, began asking too many questions about Amy's credentials and her background, and Jake could see the worry in her eyes even through the disguise. He is suspicious, she said one night, and if he digs too deep he will find inconsistencies. Jake knew they had to do something, and so he went to Greg and had a carefully planned conversation in which he let slip that Amy had a complicated past that she was trying to leave behind, and that she valued her privacy. Greg seemed to accept this, and he stopped asking questions, but Jake knew they were on borrowed time. Then the device failed completely. Amy came to his quarters one evening, and her disguise flickered and died, and she could not bring it back no matter what she tried. I cannot go out there like this, she said, and there was real fear in her voice. Now, and if I do not appear for my shifts, they will come looking for me. Jake made a decision. You stay here, he said, and I will tell them you are sick, that you have some kind of flu and need rest, and I will cover your shifts and bring you food, and we will figure out how to fix the device. She looked at him with those luminous silver eyes, and for a moment she seemed about to argue, but then she nodded. Thank you, she whispered. For 3 days, Jake maintained the lie, and he worked double shifts to cover for her, and he brought her meals and supplies, and he watched as she worked frantically to repair the device using whatever materials she could scavenge. On the 3rd night, she finally got it working again, and the disguise snapped back into place, and she looked human once more, but something had changed between them. She stood in front of him and reached out and took his hand, and her grip was warm and solidy. Oh, you, my life, she said, and I know that the arrangement we made was supposed to be practical, but I find that I do not want it to be just an arrangement. Any more, Jake felt his heart skip, and he realized that somewhere along the way he had stopped seeing her as an alien and started seeing her as simply her.